So a Turing machine, right? Infinite tape, modeling computers. So the mathematical construct that Alan Turing came up with for computation. It was a automata, and I was thinking of non-deterministic Turing machines, which would have an unknown and non-deterministic number of states that it could move to from any transition. And I was thinking about the human brain, right? So, human brain, let's say you have let's say a theoretical human brain that has all the connections between all the neurons, which doesn't exist, but let's think about it for a minute. So you have 50 billion neurons, you have 50 billion factorial connections, right? So that's 50 billion potential states of that system, or 50 billion factorial states of that system, right? Just by whether or not the edges, which would be the connections between neurons, are active. Okay? So every possible combination of active and inactive synapses, basically. And if you think about what that could model, is a non-deterministic Turing machine with an arbitrary upper bound on the number of states it can transition to. So given that number of states in that system, I mean, you're talking about like basically modeling a non-deterministic Turing machine for anything with fewer states than that. So you have to think about what would go into making the states. So like your alphabet. So if your alphabet were just binary and the tape length is infinite, and it wouldn't be really infinite because even computers, they don't have an infinite tape, and we still say that they're Turing machines, even though they're not. They're a subset of Turing machines which have a finite tape. This would be a subset of non-deterministic Turing machines which have finite states that they can transition to. But it can still only go from one state to the next, right? Unless, of course, you encode into these states, and there's a lot of them, multiple state sets, correct? All right? So, because you have so many goddamn states, you can take 50 billion of them, all right? And you can cut that in half and say, for 50 billion states, there are just one less than times that, 50 billion states it can transition into, right? So basically what you can do is, you can model a non-deterministic Turing machine with an arbitrary upper bound of, like, let's say, I don't know, let's use, I don't know, a good number would be 4 million states that it could be in, right? 4 million states, four mega states, right? So like, whatever, like 10 to the 24 times 10 to the 24 states, right? So there's a number of states it can transition into. So that's pretty interesting, because then you can come up with any number of non-deterministic Turing machines which have that many states, and you can figure out how many of these machines you can model with this, because there will be machines that will only make certain transitions. So you can take some subset of non-deterministic Turing machines and model them with a human brain, and it does that computation in polynomial time, because it does it in real time by changing states, by thinking, right? So that's pretty interesting. And if I put this down on paper, it'd be a little bit more clear. But I guess my point is that if you had a bunch of neurons and you connected them together, and you had some meaningful way of giving it inputs and getting outputs, then you could literally do non-polynomial computations in polynomial time with neurons in a platter.